Hey everyone, we're going to show off the compare feature for CodeBot. To do that, first we're going to do it just with EC workbooks all in the same company ID. So let's navigate over to Employee Central. We'll work in our Silver training workspace. And here you can see we just have the one iteration. We can click open that workbook. And I'm just going to clone this workbook. I'm going to say iteration 2, clone iteration and configuration workbook, just like we did in the last lesson, and confirm and clone. Okay, great. Now this is processed, and you can see we have a clone now. There we are. We've got 1 and 2. Now there are no changes here. These are going to match exactly because they were cloned exactly. So let's make some of these changes live. So what we're going to do is change this information here. While this is processing, I like to click over on the eye icon. Great, after we refresh the changes, we'll click in on the screenshots and you can see the changes are going through. And wait for this status to be complete. That way we can work on the workbook more. And here we are. You can see the status is complete. You can see the total execution time to make those changes was 4 minutes and 35 seconds. So now when we click back into the workspace, we've got 2 workbooks. I'll close these out. We've got iteration 1, where we've got cat, dog, blue, red, yellow, cat, dog, blue, red, yellow. And in iteration 2, we now have highlighted in green, validated that the changes have gone through to the instance. We have bird, fish, orange, green, purple, bird, fish, orange, green, purple. That's great. What we're going to do is we're going to clone iteration 2 now. So we'll go up to the hamburger menu and request reprocess to refresh the actions menu. Now we get the full actions window. We'll hit clone again. We'll change this to iteration 3, clone iteration configuration and workbook, and we'll confirm and clone. Great, now we have an iteration 3 workbook up, which we can bring up here. So we have 1, 2, and then 3 will be an exact clone of 2. What we're going to do is fix the formatting on 3. To do that, highlight a row, press the paint format button, and then highlight the rows that you'd like to format correctly. Now you can see we've just gotten rid of those highlights. That's all we've done for this. So now we have these versions here, and we're going to change these descriptions so that they match what it is that we did. We're going to say label changes for iteration 2, because again, iteration 2 is where we made the label changes. In iteration 3, we're going to change the description by clicking the pen icon, and we're going to say this is going to be our compare iteration. So what we'll do here is we're going to compare the iterations. 3 is a clone of 2, and so we want to compare 3 to 1. And we'll click confirm and start. Great, you can see our compare execution is complete. It took 4 minutes and 5 seconds to complete. So we'll go back up. I'll click home, click over to Employee Central, click into our Silver training, and you can see our compare is now complete. So again, we've got 1 is generate workbook. We've got the regular workbook. 2, we made the label changes on these labels. And then 3, when we click over, this is the compare. And it shows everything is the same between 1 and 2, except for these rows in this area here that we've changed. It also does this for every part of the workbook. And because this was the only part of the workbook that we had changed, you'll see everything else is in green. So quickly, that's compare for version control and using iterations to version out each step. One final step that we'll do is we'll run a validate as well. So, okay, first we'll clone iteration 2 one more time, and we'll name it iteration 4. When iteration 4 is ready, we'll reformat the highlights again. Then we're going to just put some underscores into these cells to give something that will fail when we execute the validation. Validate is checking if what's in the workbook matches what's in the instance. This process is a lot faster than generating a full new workbook. So everything else in this section should be green, but the places where we've added those underscores, those will fail and they'll come back in red. Now we'll scroll right to the process status column. Mark the rows we want to check as pending. Then go back to CodeBot, go to the hamburger menu, start validation, select HRIS elements, enter the password and some execution notes, and finally click confirm and start. Great, you can see here the status is complete. The total execution time was 3 minutes and 38 seconds to validate that area of time. So we'll reopen the workbook, close out the older version. You can see everything that we've validated here. So everything in green does match what's in the instance exactly. And where we've made these changes, you can see that is not exactly what's in the instance. So that's going to be it for this lesson. What we've covered is taking a generated workbook, cloning it to make label changes, cloning that again to compare, and cloning that again. We'll request reprocess and just finish our description here by saying validate. Cloning that again to validate. And again, the way that looks is we've got our first workbook here, our second workbook with the highlights of these changes, the third workbook, we'll go back to HRIS elements with the compare, and the fourth workbook with the validate. That's it. Thank you for watching.